I am back with my guest, Janelle Anderson, with emerginglifecoaching.com. She is a premier coach. She is someone who didn't start her business till she was 61. She says, now I'm 67 and I'm still learning and I'm still growing. And she's busy with a survey for women to talk about confidence and what they're lacking in it or why they're lacking in it. So if you are interested in participating in that survey, you can go to Janelle at emerginglifecoaching.com, and she'll be in touch with you about the question she has for you. But to get back to our program now, Janelle, and to talk about the things that you see in your future. Let's talk about your future.
Awesome.
Where do you see Janelle going? Where do you see Emerging Life Coaching going? What are some of the things that you want to try that you haven't tried yet? Just tell us a little bit about your path.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. I'm writing a book. It's my second book, actually, and I'm hoping to have it released by the end of the year. That's the plan. And I want to take this book and make it like the foundation of my year-long deep dive coaching program. We call it the year of you. This is a year of really diving into who are you and where are you and what do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go from here? So in the book, I take people through these stages that as I looked back through my journey, I saw kind of this path I took, and I created this process called the STAR process, because the book is all about becoming the star of your own story. So there's a lot of, the confidence talk in there, being able to feel at home in your own skin and the star of your own story, like unashamedly and not like you're boasting or arrogant, but just owning who you are, and really being settled in that. So that's coming up, and I'm really excited about getting that out there in the world, because I feel like it tells some of my personal story too, in my journey of things I had to overcome through that process, the inner healing I had to go through to really overcome some things that were really holding me back and had been for years. So I find that, a lot of women do struggle with some stuff they've never really unearthed in their hearts and minds and things from the past. So that's a part of it as well.
Well, it's wonderful thinking about being the star of your own life. In fact, I was watching something on Paris Hilton the other night, and it said that her parents always called her Star. They never called her Paris. They called her Star.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was just very natural for her to go into show business, et cetera, even though she didn't necessarily do it the right way. But, she made millions, so I guess it worked.
Yep.
But it's interesting because, I have to tell you, I have been on the stage since I was 3 years old. I was in my first dancing recital when I was 3, and that was a whole story in itself, which I won't go into here. But, the thing is that there are a lot of things in people's pasts that hold them back. And I don't have that.
That's
because
wonderful.
my parents were great parents, strict, but great parents. Things that I wanted to do that they did not let me do, and things that I was amazed that they did let me do. And but my mom kind of thought of me as a free spirit, and I was so different than my sister. My sister was sick a lot because she had allergies, and back in those days, the only way you could control them was with shots every day. So, and I was an outdoor girl. I was climbing trees and telephone poles and playing football, and just doing all kinds of stuff that tomboys do. And it was just, we were two different people, but we are still very close, my sister and I. So, but I just didn't go through stuff, if you know what I'm saying. And so
Right.
I really didn't have anything to bring up from my past. Were there challenges? Yeah, like there was a gal that now, well, I think she's retired now, but she rose to be a judge, and she was supposed to be the smartest girl in the class. Yet I beat her in a lot of tests that we had, and never really thought about it, and read faster than anybody else. The teacher would send me on errands because I was so far ahead in the reading class than anybody else, and so forth. So I never, but it never occurred to me that those were special things. So I was fortunate, I was fortunate, but you have to do some deep dives, as you said, into your past if there are things that are holding you back. So, do you have some methods for that?
Yes, I do actually. When this S is in the star process is stirring up your soul, kind of like that waking up that we were talking about earlier, like, oh my gosh, I'm 50 something. But then the T of the star is what I call truth telling. And that's where you begin to, if you need to, now, like you said, some people don't have to, but I know I did. And I discovered it, and it was in my 50s, that things from my 20s, things that had happened to me, I had tried to bury and hide away and ignore, but they were still there. And I didn't, all those years, I never thought that they were affecting me or that I needed to do anything about them. But when I hit my 50s and I was trying to really move forward and fulfill my purpose and really step onto that center stage of my own life, I kept hitting this wall and I wasn't confident and I felt disconnected somehow. So I began this process of truth telling. And by that, I mean having the courage to look at those things again. And I had help uh, through my church. We have this ministry called Freedom Teams, and somebody goes with you into those areas and helps you talk through things and pray through things. And I wasn't doing it alone. I would never say to do this alone. But I was able to look at some key things that had happened that I'd never, ever shared. And I realized I had been carrying shame over some things, and I had thought it was because something was wrong with me that these things happened. And it had all been kind of stowed away deep in my subconscious, but it was affecting my ability to be confident in who I was now, in the present time. So I unpacked some of those, went through just some processes of forgiveness, of telling myself the truth instead of lying to myself, like, this did happen. You can't ignore it. It actually did happen. And a lot of realizations and insights came out of that process that I was shocked, actually. For example, one of the things that had happened when I was 19, I was in college and I was still a virgin. And we went out, my roommate and I went out one night, and I remember talking to some guys. And the next thing I remember, waking up in my room in my apartment, and he was actually raping me. But and then I blacked out again. So the next day, my first thought was, that was my fault. I did something to cause that. And I never talked to anyone about it. I never got any counseling. I just shut it down. And that affected me for many, many years. And until I went through this process of Freedom Teams and truth telling, I was telling the story to the lady that was helping me. And she was like, it sounds like you were drugged and raped.
I was going to say that you were probably drugged, absolutely.
But it was a shock to me to learn that. It happened in my 20s and I was in my 50s. And when she said that to me, I was like, what? I had never once considered that. It's so weird. I just thought it was my fault.
There's so much publicity about that, Janelle,
yeah.
which just goes to show you how people take on that responsibility themselves.
Yes.
And don't hold anybody else accountable for that.
Right. And in that day, that was in the 70s. And I don't remember people talking about, the the drug.
Well, they didn't.
No. And I don't even remember knowing if there was any counseling on campus. There just wasn't resources, or people didn't talk about it. And so that was a huge insight for me to change how I was relating to my past. Instead of stuffing it away and thinking, oh, that was a horrible thing I did, I was able to unpack it and tell the truth that, wait a minute, I was actually the victim of this guy, his decision to do what he did. And it wasn't my fault. I was actually a victim. And so I was able to really find a lot of healing in that, and healing, breaking off the shame of me being something wrong with me. And that was a huge, huge part of my process. So things like that in the truth telling. And I would say, if you do feel like there are things like that in your life, to find someone to help, and be brave, but be really honest and real with yourself, because it's the truth, knowing the truth really, that does set you free. It does bring freedom. And I thought it was going to be really painful and hard to go through that, but I discovered it wasn't. And I had so much freedom. I was able to really let the emotions come out that I had never let out. And so it was a really cleansing time. And that set me on this path of really owning who I am and not being ashamed of it anymore, and being able to talk about it. So
Well,
that's
what's so interesting, Janelle, is I have to tell you this story, which I didn't believe. And it was very interesting because my sister, who is a psychotherapist, was with me on this particular trip because it was in New York State, upper New York State, and she lives there. And I said, she always said, if you're ever anywhere close that we can drive to, I'll come and hear you and spend time with you. So I was doing this program for a doctor who was doing a customer appreciation program for his patients. And we were talking about certain things, and this woman said, well, and she came up with this particular saying, and I said, well, where did that come from? And she said, my mother. And I said, so your mom is still telling you what to do? Because she was not a youngster. I think she was certainly in her late 50s. And she said, well, and I said, is your mom still living? And she said, no. And I said, well, how long has she been passed? How long has it been since she passed away? Well, it was 30 years.
wow.
And she was still controlling her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, wow, this would never happen to me. And so I went through this whole thing. And my sister, who was practically jumping out of her chair, said, Gail, you really approached it well. And you said things in a very common sense way. And she said, I was going to say it, but I was going to say it clinically. And she said, you did such a better job. So I'm glad I kept my seat. But it just shows you how impactful some of the teachings that we had growing up. I still wipe down everything in the bathroom after a shower because my mom said you got to wipe the walls. Just certain things. I have to brush my teeth. I brush my teeth after every meal, and just little things that were ingrained in you when you were a kid keep popping up. And occasionally my son will say to me, God, you sound just like grandma. But I had a wonderful compliment the other day. My great nephew, my sister's grandson, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, wrote on Facebook that my mother, his great grandmother, and Ruth Ginsburg had died on the same day, 11 years apart.
Wow.
But that they were both icons, and how my mother had raised two children to think for themselves, go for what they wanted in an age when it wasn't appropriate to do so, and that we were both professionally successful. And I thought that was such a nice tribute from a kid. I guess, well, he's not such a kid now. He's probably 30 or 29. And he's got a very responsible position at Stanford University. But, just to have him say that, and I always say my mom was my mentor. So it's so brave of you, Janelle, to be forthright about these things in your past that you have come to acknowledge and now accept. And it has made you stronger. It has made you more successful. It has made you more of a compassionate person. And you just can't ask for any more than that.
That's true. Yes. I discovered that once I was able to share my story, I was allowing, it created this place of allowing others to give themselves permission to be real with themselves, because if I could stand up there and talk about what I had been through, it was like, oh, if you can talk about it, then I can. It gave them that courage. I think the worst thing that we can do is stuff things away and hide them and not talk about them. That's where they get to be really powerful and holding you back.
That is so true. That is so true. And the point is, ladies, we want you to understand that no matter what you're going through at 50 and over, there is help out there for you. Now, whether it comes in the size of a coach like Janelle, or whether it comes in a community program, or whether it's through your church or your synagogue, or whether or not it's it's a good friend that you can talk to, the help is there. It's there, and you just need to accept it and be open to it. So we were on this path of where you were going, Janelle, and I think we got off of it. So
We did.
you're writing your second book, and
Yes,
it's
I'm
going
writing my
to
book.
be and it's going to be the basis of your year-long program. What else
Yes.
is happening?
Well, I am also I'm creating that course I talked about, and then I'm hoping to develop a mastermind group so that I could have a group of women, 9 women come together that are, high achievers, successful women that can share their journeys with each other and help each other build confidence. That's one of the things on my horizon to start possibly next year. And then I'd love to at some point have like a membership site too, because I'm developing a lot of courses. I love learning and growth and development. I love to encourage other women to grow themselves. And you never stop learning, like we talked about before. So have like a membership site where they can access different courses on a variety of topics. So that's in the works as well. And continuing on, of course, with my one-on-one clients. I also love to get out and speak. So hopefully we'll be able to get out and speak in person again soon. So I'm hoping I had several speaking engagements lined up when COVID hit, but I'm hoping that next year maybe things can start opening up again and I can get out there and travel and speak in different conferences
Yeah,
or
that is a goal for most speakers. Where are the stages?
yeah.
I'm booked in San Diego in March, and I have told them I don't know if I'll be there. It just depends on
Yeah.
what happens. I'm not getting on a plane until there's a vaccine. I'm not getting on a plane till everybody socially distances, and it's just it's tough,
That is
and
tough.
so many speakers are doing virtual events and are doing them very successfully. And interestingly, many events that are virtual now are larger than the in-person events because people can attend globally because it's all digitized. So
Yeah.
people don't have to spend the money on airfare and hotels, which of course the hotels in the airline industry are not happy about, but they don't have to because they can do it virtually. And so the audiences are larger and they're much more diverse and interesting. So
Yes.
even though those of us who are speakers get our jazz from being on stage, I mean, we love it.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, and we have to deal with it. So hopefully you'll get back on stages and start speaking. And are you going to speak on confidence, or what do you speak on?
Sure. Things about confidence, discovering who you are, and walking in that full expression of who you are. I imagine myself always getting on stage and saying to all the women there, "You are amazing." And when I've said that before, I get a variety of looks back. Like some people will smile, and others will be like, "What? What are you talking about? I'm not." Because I remember feeling that way. I remember just feeling like this thought kept coming up to me. I felt like it was really God speaking to my heart. Like, do you know how great you are? Is what I kept hearing. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Me? I'm not anything great. I'm just Janelle Anderson from Christiansburg, Virginia. And it
But
kept,
where did that, do you know how great you are, come from? I mean, did you hear it spiritually? Did you hear it in person? How did you hear it?
yeah, it was like a thought that just kind of floated up into my mind, just kind of softly would just appear in my mind out of nowhere. And that's to me, that's God speaking to me from my spirit because it's not a thought I would just think of. I would never think that thought. And I was preparing a Bible study for some women in my church when it kept coming to me. And that's the other thing is like, it keeps coming. And I'm like, where is that coming from? So once I realized, okay, I need to pay attention to this and I started to think about it. I started to pray about it. I started to really meditate on that thought. Like, what do you mean? Well, maybe there's something to this. So that really put me on this path of like, what makes people great? What makes people who they are? And each one of us is so unique. And helping women see that, because that's so important, and to embrace that. I began to look at my strengths, my gifts, my talents, my passions, what makes me me. And it's not great in the sense of not necessarily like a well-known person. I think a lot of times we think great, that means I've got to be like a Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa or Ruth Bader Ginsburg or somebody like that. and you might be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be famous or well known. You can be great just being a influence to the people around you and leading your life with, with courage and with positivity and generosity and compassion and just doing those things that you are innately gifted to do. And then you can see a great effect. You could affect one person who's going to affect a million people. Who knows?
Well,
So,
that is so true. So if I asked you who is a woman that you truly, truly admire, who would you answer?
oh, wow, there's so many. I have always admired Mother Teresa. I've always admired Heidi Baker. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She is a missionary in, I think it's Zimbabwe. I think it's Zimbabwe. And she has done just incredible, incredible things and had to overcome so much and just went for it and is still out there in the field and taking care of the people that are the poorest, the ones that live in the dumps, like Mother Teresa too, women like that, they're willing to just sacrifice everything and, life's comforts and pleasures to serve the neediest and the most, you know, the people that are suffering the most in our world and just to love on them. Those two women come to mind immediately.
Well, we're coming to the end, believe it or not, Janelle, of our program. So I want to
Wow.
make sure that people know where to reach you. So give them information on how to get in touch with you. I don't know if you have any gift for them, whatever you'd like to tell them.
Absolutely. Yes, you can get in touch with me by email, Janelle at emerginglifecoaching.com. And my website is emerginglifecoaching.com as well. And if you go to my website, you'll see there's a free course. It's called Be Confident, Be Real, Be You. It's 5 videos with some downloadable action guides all about building confidence. It talks about the imposter syndrome and then leads you through this exercise at the end where you have this really beautiful vision board called the Real You board. And I use it all the time to just encourage myself because it's me. It describes me. So that's on there. You can just click on that. It's totally free. And I would love to have you guys grab that and get in touch with me.
And you'll be happy that you did because she's a fabulous, fabulous coach.
Oh, thank you.
For for the rest of you, if you want to remind you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and YouTube for new content from me. If you want to reach me, I'm at spunkyoldbroad.com. I hope some of you will join my free Facebook group, which I think Janelle is a member of. It's
Yes.
called a Virtual SOB Club, and it's free, and you can join there. And if any of you are interested in it, I've got SOB merchandise now. We've got coffee cups, we've got t-shirts, hoodies, leggings, just about everything you would want to address as a spunky old broad. And remember that Spunky Open Broad is for you, spunky, open, and brave. If you don't want to be called a spunky old broad, you can be spunky, open, and brave, and that's important. So that's, I think, some of the things that I wanted to tell you. And if you do send me a contact form, we have a contact form on the website. I answer your question within 24 hours. I mean, it is almost immediate. As soon as I get your email, it is answered. So please feel free to contact me there at any time. Janelle, it has been just wonderful to have you back on the show and on the SOB show. And I know that you're working hard to provide for women and their growth and their confidence and their success. So that's so important. It's just, we as women need to form a union together, support
Yes.
each other, praise each other, work for each other, and help each other in any way we can. And if someone doesn't do what you agree with, but it's not wrong, I mean, it's ethical and it's honest, support them. I mean, you may not agree. That's what's called democracy. So hopefully you'll have all of that. But thanks for being with us, Janelle, and we hope we'll see each other soon again.
Yes, I'm sure we will. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Hi, this is Dr. Gail, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.